everyone. Thanks for joining in on today's session for on Flutter Roadmap. I'm Sadhna, the GDSC lead for Amrita School of Engineering, Bangalore, and I welcome you all on behalf of all the other 19 GDSCs collaborating for this event. I would also like to thank Nikita Gandhi for being the speaker for today's session. To give you all a brief intro on her, Nikita is the community manager at Google. Over her 4 years of career, she has developed experience in product management, marketing, education, and program management. Speaking of developer advocacy, she has been leading the Google Developer Program in India with a footprint of 50 communities with more than 150,000 members and 200 plus organizers. She's also led the Explore ML program for college students with a reach of 30,000 students in less than a year. She's co-founded two startups, Hackedemist and Codevisor, which develop products to help provide technical education for students over smartphones. She's also led the Google Developer Groups Pune and Women Tech Makers Pune with over 10,500 members for a meetup in 2018. She's also helped in organizing India's biggest developer fest with over 800 plus developers in 2018. And she's also the lead organizer for PyLadies Pune. It's a pleasure to have you here. We're excited to learn from you today. Over to you.
Hi everyone. I hope you all are doing well. My name is Nikita, and Sadhna has given a brief introduction about my career. Um, we all can get started. So there are so many of you participating from so many different colleges, and really nice to have you all under the same roof. Thanks to this virtual mode of engaging with communities, we can meet with so many people and engage with so many of you through this online forum. It's a Saturday afternoon. It's sunny outside in Bangalore. I don't know how is it in your city. Many of us are waiting for the rains to pour. Many of us are enjoying this lazy afternoons. But thank you so much for making time today and joining this session. I am going to go ahead and start speaking about Flutter because I know most of you want me to do that. Let me quickly share my slides, but meanwhile, let the introductions keep coming and we are good to start. So, like Sadhna already mentioned, my name is Nikita. I'm from the Google Developers team. I'm the community manager for GDSC program in India. And wonderful to connect with all the GDSC members, leads, and the facilitators as a part of this beautiful event that 19 different communities have come together and organized. So let me set the expectations clear. This session is for individuals who want to start building apps for multiple platforms. Like if you want to build apps for Android or iOS, or if you want to build a beautiful website, or if you want to build apps for desktop or embedded, this session will be a great way for you to get started with how to develop apps for cross-platform technology. So the question is, what is Flutter? How many of you know what is Flutter? Can we have a quick show of hands in the chat section? Okay, I see some of you have raised hands. I'm going to spend some time at least at the start to tell you what Flutter is about. So do not feel discouraged if you don't know what Flutter is about. That's what exactly I've intended to start this session with. So Google has created a toolkit, a UI toolkit that helps developers build apps for multiple platforms. So it's a portable toolkit, which means if you write a code base, it can run on a particular platform, and then it will also run on some other platform using the same code base. And I'm going to tell you more about that. So these are the 7 different platforms that Flutter supports. It's iOS, Android, Web, Windows, Mac operating system, Linux, and embedded. So you see, if you write a code that can run for Android platform, you can rerun the same code for iOS platform. It can rerun the same code for Web, Windows, Mac operating system, Linux, and embedded. So that's the beauty of Flutter. It supports 7 different platforms using a single code base. And what makes Flutter strong and beautiful is one, it's fast. The reason it is fast is the way Flutter works is it directly accesses the underlying hardware components. It doesn't have to create a simulation, or it doesn't have to create bridges that can help it access the underlying components. It has language access to the underlying hardware components, which makes it faster. It's productive because the lines of code are immensely reduced with Flutter. And secondly, it's really easy to implement the syntax, and hence developer find it productive. Beautiful. So you can actually implement beautiful designs using Flutter. May those be curved animations or some explicit animations that you want to draw, or any color combinations you want to use, or fonts, or anything that makes your app beautiful can be implemented very easily with Flutter. It's open. If you want to use Flutter, it's open for everyone. It's free of cost. You don't have to pay anything. In fact, all the Flutter communities that are there, they are open and they are welcome for everyone, for developers of all kinds who want to be a part of it. And it's portable. So once you write code with Flutter, you can deploy it on 7 different platforms, and hence it's portable. So Flutter is fast because, like I said, it helps you access the underlying hardware components. It's very similar to how a native application would work, which means how an Android application, which is written in Kotlin or Java, would work. Flutter works similarly. So what Flutter does is, um, it directly reaches out to the underlying hardware components. For example, if it wants to access the camera, it will directly reach out to the camera, pull the resources, use it, and then park it once it's done. But if it were a hybrid technology, not a cross-platform technology, a hybrid technology, for example, React Native, what it does is it creates bridges. So it creates pipelines that can help it access the underlying components. Now that may make the performance a little slower in case there is a bottleneck. Productive. So there are various reasons why Flutter is productive, and one of the features is hot reload and hot restart. So if you are a developer and if you're making some changes in your app apart from the main function, and if you want to see if the change was successfully implemented, you don't have to rerun the entire code base. So you may have an app which is 5,000 lines long. You don't have to run the code from start. You can just click on the hot restart button, and only those changes which you made recently in anything or anywhere else outside the main function can be reflected on the emulator or the simulator you are trying to run your app. So it's really productive for this particular reason. But if you make changes to the main function, then it may take some time for it to run, but it's still comparatively faster to a native application that runs from scratch. Beautiful. So designers come with amazing ideas, but developers know the reality. Some animations may not be easy to implement. Some animations may not be even possible to implement in a few languages. But with Flutter, you can actually design beautiful applications because you can actually define, I want the transition happen from this point to this point, and this is the curve at which the transition should happen. So you can actually build beautiful applications using Flutter. And Flutter is open. So there are a lot of communities that are specific to Flutter, both online and offline, starting from Stack Overflow to various other forums like GitHub, pub.dev, to meetups around you. Everything is open and everyone is welcome to contribute. It's portable, same code runs everywhere on different platforms. Okay. So I hope so far so good, and you all understood what is Flutter, how it works, and what are the features of Flutter. Flutter is trusted by 2 lakh Flutter apps, and this was a count in early 2021. The count has definitely gone high from this particular number. And many enterprises as well as startups are trusting Flutter. So in case you want a job in Flutter, you don't have to worry because many startups are already using Flutter. Many enterprises like New Bank, Grab, Toyota, Tencent, all are using Flutter. Alibaba Group, they are using Flutter. So you have a great opportunity to join those startups as a developer. And regardless, if you're planning to have your own startup and you want to use it, there are so many other startups who have tried different things with Flutter. So it's a good experiment for you to get started with. And Google also uses Flutter for its production level applications. So Google AdMob, Family Link, Blogger, Analytics, Google One, GPay, all are using Flutter. And one of the interesting use cases of Google Pay, I'm sure all of you have heard about this app. The engineers on the Google Play team said that the lines of code reduced by 20% when they moved to Flutter, and the team productivity also increased by 22% as the team decided to move with Flutter. It has a global community support. The ecosystem is thriving, and what makes Flutter strong is the community support. So, listed are various community forums that you can be a part of to engage with Flutter developers, just not in your campus, but in the country and beyond. Okay, so I hope you all had a quick round of intro about Flutter, what it does, who is using Flutter, and how powerful it is. Now I'm going to get started with the actual topic. So some of you may have already learned Flutter. Some of you may have already started building apps with Flutter. Some of you may have questions on how can I become a developer from where I have already started and what I already know. Some of you may be thinking, from what I know, can I get a job in the industry? So the next few minutes, I'm going to spend telling you about how you can gain some confidence while you're preparing for interviews or trying to get to know more about Flutter. So, for those who have not yet started with Flutter, what you need to do is install a IDE. It can be Android Studio or it can be Xcode or it can be VS Code on which you have to install Flutter. Go to flutter.dev/install, and this is the place which will give you all the idea on installing Flutter on your machine. You may be using a Linux machine, you may be using Windows, or you may be using Mac operating system. There are clear guidelines for individual operating systems. And once you install Flutter, you can integrate it with various things, including third-party plugins, Firebase, Android APIs, which are specific for Android platform, iOS APIs, which are specific to iPhones, material design standards, which are designed for all the Android applications to make the app look consistent and beautiful across the Play Store. All of that is possible using Flutter. Well, I'm sure all of you have the question, how do I get started? Can we have a show of hands? Agree? Do you have this question on mind? How do I get started? Or where do I go from where I know right now? For those who know what are the basics of programming, or for those who have written some apps in the past or have used C++, Java in the past, uh, you you already know what object oriented programming is, but you may not know what is Dart. But Flutter is built using Dart. So my first recommendation will be, if you know object oriented programming like Java, Python, or C++, try to understand the syntax of Dart. So it won't take much time because you already know how object oriented programming works, but you just have to spend a little time in understanding the syntax of Dart, and you should be good to get started with writing apps for Flutter using Flutter. But if you have made native applications in the past, which means you've built apps for Android or iOS operating system, or you've built websites in the past, then in this case, what you need to do is directly go try to understand what is Dart, and you should be good to get started. Um, but if you don't know what is object oriented programming and you want a place to get started with, then what you need to do is, first of all, learn object-oriented programming. It can be using Dart as well. And then you can proceed with building apps for the Flutter platform. So once you install Flutter, you know what is object-oriented programming, you know what is Dart. Then the first thing you need to know, or what are the basics of Flutter, is widgets. So everything is a widget in Flutter. um, a widget can be a stateful widget or a stateless widget. Everything is a widget in Flutter. So everything that you see on the screen is widget in Flutter. It can be a text, it can be an image that you see, it can be a button that you see. Everything is a widget in Flutter. There are inherited widgets which derive the property of its parent widget. Then there is accessibility. Then there is localization. Then there is theming. I'll come to all of that. But before that, let's understand the basic difference between stateless and stateful widgets. So stateless widgets are those whose properties don't change with user interaction. So if there was a text and if a user clicks on that and if nothing happens, then it's a stateless widget. But if the property of the widget changes on user interaction, then it's a stateful widget. Then there is inherited widget, which means some of the properties are retrieved from the parent widget, but not all properties. There is theming, there is localization. Theming is how you want to theme the entire application, how you want to set the color code, the font, and the overall structure of the app. Try to learn that as well as you get started with Flutter. And localization. So if you want to make any platform specific changes, then you can do that as a part of localization. An example of stateless widget is text widget. So if you were to declare a text in a Flutter application, what you need to do is write text in round brackets, write the string that you want to print on the Flutter application, and then you can decorate it. You can add the font size, color, text direction, all of that after adding a comma to your string. So it's very simple to add a simple text widget and customize it using Flutter. A stateful widget is where you can add interactivity to your application. So if there is a button, user clicks on that, and if user is navigated to a new screen, then it is a stateful widget. Localization. If you want to make any platform specific UI implementation, for example, if you've used iPhones, the way the screens navigate from right to left or one screen to another is a little different than how it works for Android applications. And both of them have their own design standards. Like Android has Material as a design standard, which is designed by Google to maintain consistency across applications, and Apple has Cupertino. So you can make those platform specific UI changes by doing some localization. Inherited widgets is where the base class has all the properties and the the child class will inherit properties from the base class. Now, it may not have all the properties of its parent widget, but it will take a few properties, and you need to declare which properties needs to be inherited. And that's known as inherited widget. So once you understand how you can write different widgets, for example, try adding a row, column, text, button, image, text area to your Flutter application, you know a little bit on how different widgets work in Flutter. Then what you can do next is try writing a basic application which has some stateless widgets. Then you customize it, like add a text, try to customize it. Then second step is add a stateful widget, like add a button and try to customize it. Then fourth step is make some platform specific changes. How can an app behave differently on an Android versus iOS application versus a website? You can try making those platform specific changes and then try using inheritance. Now, you may think I am just telling you what to do, but you may have questions. How do I do it? Where do I get started from? What are the resources which can help me? Simply go to google.com, Search stateless widgets examples and you would see a lot of examples that are already there. Don't focus on syntax. Don't try to mesmerize or memorize the syntax. It will be overwhelming for you because you're also trying to understand how an application is developed. So your focus should be on how an application is developed and not the syntax over here. That is available everywhere on Google. There are a lot of resources that I'm going to share at the end for you to get started with Flutter. Animations. So we all want to make our apps look beautiful and we want to make our app look engaging. Here is a list of animations that I would like you all to try. These all are widgets, which means someone has already written the function or the behavior of each of these widgets. You can customize it to your needs or requirements and just try doing that. So just search for animated widget Flutter example. You will see how to implement that. Try adding it to your Flutter application. Similarly, hero, opacity, animated, see how they work. And then just give it a thought, can I make this app work a little differently or animation work a little differently, and try adding that. You may have questions around what type of animation should I choose. Just take a screenshot of the screen. It has answers or a flowchart typically based on your need for you to understand how do you choose the right animation in Flutter. Cool. I hope you were quick on it. Then these are the 8 animations I would give you as homework to try. Animated container demo, page route builder demo, animated controller demo, animation controller demo, that is a little different from animated controller container demo, tween demo, animated builder demo, fade transition, etc. So try writing these 8 animations. Again, how do you do it? Answer is google.com. And if you think I'm just trying to save myself from giving you answers like search it on google.com and why are you here if everything was available on Google, the answer is I don't want to tell you how to do it. I want to tell you what to do and leave the part on how to do on your end, because some of you may love watching video tutorials, so you can do that. There is ample of content available for that. Some of you would like to read blogs. There is ample of content available for that as well. There are clear steps on how you can follow these steps and you get the output. So not focusing on what is available everywhere, but giving you what may not be available as easily in the market. Then storage. Now that you have added the front end to the application, you've added beautiful animations. The question is storage. So try using shared preference, file storage, and SQLite in your application. This is the step 8 for you once you've begun your journey with Flutter. External libraries. So you can actually use a lot of external libraries in your application, and this is the list that you can try: HTTP, cache network image, font awesome Flutter, SQF Lite, block pattern, get it, do. So try using these external libraries in your application. Behavior components. How your user can give permission to the resources your Flutter application is trying to access. How can you send notifications locally to your user? How can you send push notifications to all the users of your application? Download manager. Where does the files go once the user downloads files from your app? The music that can be played, especially for gaming like applications. How can you add media playback? Preference, how user can share preferences on which of the resources they would like to share on their platform, like geography, camera, and so on. Location, I mean not geography, but location, how user can set those preferences. And sharing, so how can users share an app or a file or an image from the application. Try working on these 7 to 8 things as step 10 for your journey with Flutter. State management. This is a little advanced concept. It comes a little later after you understand the 10 steps that I have mentioned in the past. Once you're confident about widgets, adding animations, adding backend to the application, and then also adding third-party libraries, Start with state management. I have just given a few examples. You may want to explore a few more based on your app's needs and requirements. But these five are the most popular state management practices. Firebase with Flutter. This is my favorite part. With Flutter, so Firebase is a third-party integration that you can do with your application to authenticate a user, to connect with database, to store user data, and send messaging to the user. So just go to Firebase, search Firebase with Flutter, and there are a lot of websites that give you all this information. It's firebase.flutter.dev or firebase.google.com, which will give you all the insights about integrating Flutter with Firebase. Do try at least these four things while you are building your app with Flutter. And if you want to go stronger with Flutter, you have to share what you learn. Only when you start sharing with people, you would know what you have learned. You will start preparing yourself better. There are a lot of code labs on Flutter. I'm going to share the link. Do check out my blog as well on Medium if you prefer learning using blogs. And then there are YouTube videos. So you can just search for Flutter YouTube, and then you'll see MTech Viral, which is not an official Google channel but has a lot of interesting and useful content. There is Tardus Petra, who's also an amazing YouTuber, and then Flutter has its own official channel. So you can try that. Search for Flutter on GitHub. Try or find a community around you where you would find Flutter developers who already have experience, who can help you, or you can help developers who are interested in getting started with Flutter. That's it. You're all set to build beautiful apps for every platform using Flutter. I hope you found this session useful and insightful. Okay, so if you want to understand the concept, so widget Flutter binding is used to interact with the Flutter engine. So if you want to initialize the application, which means if you want to start the application from scratch or run from the home screen, then you need to call the native code which initializes Firebase or anything third party that you've integrated with the application. It invokes all the platform channels, tells that, hey, now we need to start working. It calls the native code, and this is all done asynchronously. So you have to call ensure initialize to make sure that the instance is all started and the widgets are all bind together before the app actually starts running. Jay, you can't use JavaScript or Java or C++ for Flutter. You need to use Dart because Flutter is built on top of Dart. Thank you so much, Avneet. It was a great pleasure being a part of this session. And thank you so much to all the 19 leads who collaborated and planned this event. I'm sure collaboration takes a huge effort. So thank you so much for planning this and bringing all the students from your campus under the same roof.
Thank you so much, Nikita, for taking this session. It was a great session, and I'm sure that the audience would have learned a lot. I would also like to thank everyone for joining in for this session, and wish all of you have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much.